Folks, welcome back, mere mortals. Musings today. We look back at the week that was, a bit of learnings, what we've learned, what we've understood, what we failed at.
Yep.
A little bit of conversation all around those things. So that's what we're going to get into today. But, of course, a mere mortal moment is what we're going to kick us off with. And I'll let you get into it.
I think we should because it would help explain the thumbnail a little bit.
Yeah, I was a little bit confused myself as you were setting up for the thumbnail. So what's going on there?
I can do so much with this thing, and yet all I hear about is bitching and dick pics.
Oh, yep.
So I think...
Where does that come from?
I don't know. I've just heard recently over the past, I'll say like 2 months, I guess, that people complaining about the phone, people complaining about, oh, there's so much technology, it's hurting my eyes, it's doing all these bad things to me. Yeah.
Is this people you're talking to that are actively saying this?
Not so much. It's actually more what I hear from online sources, so podcasting and whatnot. Although bits and pieces from other, people in real life, but not more probably in the digital realm because I spend more time intaking stuff than that rather than face to face. Anyway,
that's very interesting. I haven't heard anyone complain about a phone for a really long time now. Okay. I remember hearing this many years ago when it was, there's too many things. And sure, there's some Netflix documentary that came out around it. There was some people talking about infinity pools. But by the by, most people I converse with, I have not heard any complaints for a long time.
This could just be me being selective, but I have heard enough
for it to call to your attention.
To be called to my attention.
Okay.
And just every time, man, I just think, man, especially since I've gotten a good phone, because I was rocking the iPhone 4 for the years of 2011 through to 2017-ish. So I had a pretty shit phone for a long time. And just the capability of these things.
It's beyond. Although it's interesting.
Continually amazing me.
So for people who haven't checked out some of our reels on Instagram, you should go check out that, of course. But you say like the phone is such a high quality, but I look at those reels and I just think to myself, man, such a terrible quality camera still.
My one.
Yeah. Obviously that's in comparison to sort of the latest and greatest right now. But imagine that compared to an iPhone 4 or something like precursor to that.
Sure,
obviously a great advancement. Okay, nice. Mine is your yes should be a no and your no should be yeses. Both of those are true. It depends on the context.
Okay.
So
all I can immediately think of is what's that one where it's like if she says no, that means yes. No, if she means no, that means maybe, and if she means maybe,
that means yes.
That means yes. Related to sex, of course.
Yeah. So this one was more along the lines of your yeses should be a no and it's all contextual. I think more and more conversation I'm having, more things I'm reading. I don't know if it's a consulting mindset or what's going on, but everything I'm trying to say, it just depends on the context. But rather than stop at that consulting line where, you go, it depends, and you pause it. That's why people hate consultants a lot. It just depends.
It depends.
I try to go down the path of, okay, it depends, and give myself some context as to what. So some context or examples. Yes should be a no. It's when you're trying to overload yourself. So in the examples of, you're saying yes to doing a lot of things, going to events, networking when you shouldn't and it's not priority, then your yeses should be no's. But there's a lot of other things where your no's should be yeses. And that's when you're challenging yourself, pushing for failure so you can grow as well. So it's always a balance, but it depends on the context.
Good.
I like it. More moment. I'm going to kick one off because I mentioned this to you a few days ago. And you mentioned that you wasn't aware of what it was. However, I believe we've been doing this for a very long time ourselves anyways, without obviously this term, and probably a lot of people have it in different terms. So savers, have you heard this? So this is the acronym savers. Yeah. And it is by a man by the name of Hal Elrod. Yes. So Hal began this practice. It was called the Miracle Morning. And he actually published this book off the back of not a great deal of publicity. He wasn't like a big fella. He just did a lot of little blogging, and eventually produced a book, and the book sort of slowly took hold, and he went from a few people to 1 million people, and then it sort of took off from there. And now he's got this big following around the Miracle Morning. But the acronym stands for, and I want to talk to you about this, S, silence, A, affirmations. V, visualizations. E, exercise. R, reading. And S, scribing. So the whole context of this miracle morning is that you should try and do, in whichever way you want to, juggle them around, start your morning by doing all of these things in whatever time slot that you want to do them to set yourself up for the day ahead. So one thing off the bat I thought straight away is, man, I've been doing something like this already for many, many years. Maybe there's some there that I don't have, like scribing or visualization, but some of them have been there. It made me think, though, you've been doing something like this probably for a few years now, almost all of them for a few years now.
I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
No.
So
there's enough in there that I wouldn't say I'm a savers. I'm like a srivers.
Okay.
Savers.
Okay. So I went down the path of, I've been doing a little bit of, based on my monthly goals, what am I going to take away? What should I become more efficient in? And I started playing around a little bit with this, going, okay, if I'm going to have affirmations and visualizations and exercise and my reading and all these things that I want to do in a day, okay, let's bundle them up in the morning and ensure I give it the allotted time. So say for 2.5 hours or 2 hours, I'm going to do all of these things in that bucket of time, and I'm going to lay out time so I'm not like I sometimes do in the morning. I'll wake up, I'm using my do not disturb, going for the 15 minutes do not disturb, but maybe as I'm walking to the gym or now when I'm having breakfast, I'll start playing around, maybe go through a little bit of scrolling, a little bit of something else, but in the end, those little minutes might add up. So been trying for a couple of days now to just, okay, I'll do a little bit of silence, affirmations, and visualization, go work out, go ahead and do the reading, and do my own scribing, which is through my eminent human being little spreadsheet to look back at the day that was to go, okay, how to go, compare the notes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's working okay, but do you think that you would add anything else to that to make it more ideal? Or a follow-up question is, from your current morning schedule that you're currently undertaking, do you think that is producing more efficiencies to your day?
Definitely. So you said for a couple of years, and that's not true. I've only really been locking down a morning routine for, I reckon, even just the past month, to be honest. And
but I think less the locking down, more there was some of these, not all, maybe not all of them, but some of these aspects through your morning. Apart from the exercise, I think exercise probably would be obviously the one that you don't do in the morning.
I don't even think I'd say that, because I've been experimenting with putting stuff in different places for a long time. So I can't. I don't.
Okay, well,
I've been doing those things during the days, and it's only the last month or two where I've been doing it in the mornings.
All right. So how have you found in the last month of it? So
I'd say this has been the biggest change for me, which is what I've implemented in the last month, which is I used to be flexible with the time that I would wake up. So I would get my 8 hours of sleep of every night, and I would roughly try and get to sleep around 11 p.m. So therefore waking up at 7 a.m. But if I went earlier, then I'd set my alarm earlier. If I went later, I'd set my alarm later. And I think that was, looking back now, that's been the biggest change I've done, is saying, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that alarm for 6:30 every morning. And then I just really need to be mindful of getting to bed at a certain time, and I'm being a little bit less strict with the 8 hours. So if I dip down into the 7 hours, I can handle that now. Yeah, I know, shocking. So
that's a dream for me, eh?
Yeah.
7 hours would be a dream. I'd love to get there.
You can make it happen.
That's true. That is true.
You just have to have it as a priority. Anywho, so now that I've been doing that, that's because I've got this morning routine, which is, I guess, so silence, I'm guessing, is talk about meditation of some sort. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I am doing some sort of that, although it wouldn't sound like silence because I'm doing the Wim Hof breathing, which is
the opposite of silence. But
yeah,
the practice of what's involved is, yes.
The affirmations, no, I don't. I used to do that in the past. I got rid of that. Not helpful for me.
What do you term the affirmations here?
I'm powerful.
You're thinking,
I'm strong. Today's going to be a great day. I'm going to encounter things and I'm going to overcome them. Telling myself stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't find that useful.
Good, because I was going to point it out. Similarly with the affirmations, I also see it the same way. I was like, I'm not going down the path. The path that I have taken is affirming my maxims as a practice, as opposed to just the affirmation in general. So rather than saying, oh, I'm fantastic, I'm great, etc., I will run through the maxims. So that's essentially just the summary of learnings condensed into the absolute, granules of gold that I have. And I kind of just run through them from on my head. So that's, whatever 5 I've got right now, laughing into the void, all those sort of things. I just kind of run through them and just kind of remembering, oh yeah, I understand that as I sort of go through the day.
That's nice. That's nice. What was V?
V is visualization.
Visualization. I do that, but probably not in the sense that he's imagining, because I do it the opposite way, the negative visualization.
Well, again, this is interesting. So again, visualization, they were looking at positive. I was thinking you'll do negative. What I've been trying to do mine in is a video form. So taking it literally with an actual video visualization.
Yeah.
And this takes the form of, because I'm going to train beforehand, it'll usually be, and because my current goal is mobilization, I'll be looking at maybe a 5-minute video of, how to properly mobilize your hips and your knees before you go do legs, or how you do your chest.
When you're doing that, do you imagine yourself doing that exercise? Do you actually picture that in your brain?
Yep.
So you're
generally, I'll give you an example for the chest day. There was just the mobilization they were talking about was doing this sort of push up and pushing your chest in to sort of contract it, and then doing a couple of round movements with the shoulders, and especially forward, not backwards, for mobilization. So while I was doing that, I was almost in midair, sort of doing the feeling of actually the contraction, where I was trying to feel that. So I was almost seeing the visualization, obviously what they were trying to do, and feeling it through the actual movement of the muscles. So that's obviously for the time being. I don't know how that's going to evolve with visualization.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're just watching the video, I wouldn't call that visualization.
No,
that's just
there's going to be some connection. Yeah.
Exercise. Never for me. No, I need time to warm up into the day. One of the worst challenges I think we've done together was you set a challenge for a week, do 20 push-ups. I think it was something very light.
20 push-ups as soon as you wake up.
Immediately after waking up. And that was just awful, man. I hated it. I felt like I was on the verge of pulling something or doing something bad every single time I did that. It didn't feel right. Not coming into it fresh, not warm, and then trying to do something like that, for me was just, no thanks. As far as exercising in the morning, I'm trying to think of a time I ever really did. The earliest probably would have been like 11 a.m. And nowadays I think that's almost wasted time. I feel in the sense that I feel my brain's real good in the morning. It's not sort of slushy and mushy. And so that's whereas if I need to get highly concentrating work done, I'd rather
do that right away.
Be something intellectual like that. And then in the afternoon, I can do the actual exercise.
I think mine, I can get stuck into work if I needed to in the morning, but I feel it's not the mindset or the actual mental acuity in the morning. It's more once I work out, the amount of energy I've got for the rest of the day is just sublime, as opposed to not working out in the morning. It's a big difference.
Yeah, I think it would either be neutral or slightly subtract for me working out. So yeah. I mean,
but I must say your type of workouts is very different to my type of workouts.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I actually work hard, so that's why I feel tired afterwards. Whereas
I was going to say, your type of workout wouldn't release as much of the endorphins and other type of chemicals as, say, my type of workout. Or similarly, if someone's running, it's a little bit of a different type of endorphins and different types of chemicals that's released just by virtue of the type of movement that you're doing, the lactic acid that you're building up, what you feel afterwards. The fact that I eat a lot of, I guess, glucose and sugar to then repair the muscles straight afterwards. So obviously the first one you're taking on.
Definitely.
The other two was reading and scribing. So reading for me, that's one of the biggest ones, because I was I'm gonna bottle it up in the morning, because usually when I leave reading is sort of at the tail end of the day before I go to bed. And what usually happens is, if it's 10:30, 11, and I'm waking up at 4:30, that's what goes out the window. I go, nope, I'm not going to read. I'm just going straight to bed. So if I focus it in the morning, and here I'm just going to go for 10 minutes, just 10 minutes, I can get that in every day, and then potentially I can read in the afternoon. Well, that's awesome, but I'll have a specific time to do that.
Yeah.
So tried that out today. It was pretty good. It was good.
Yeah, I've noticed the same. So I've only just added to it. It's one of my monthly goals this month was to add reading into the morning routine.
Yep.
Because lately I have been noticing that I was pushing out the reading in the evenings, and I was being more willing to let it go, let it slip rather than other things.
Yep.
So yeah, I would say that my mornings are becoming top heavy now in terms of
Things that's
yeah,
going on.
yeah.
Yep. And the last one's
And
scribing.
that's been good. And scribing, no, I don't do that. No.
Did you ever used to do scribing?
No.
Okay.
No. It was always just a sort of Sunday or whenever day, usually in the evening usually, because then I'd done stuff in the day that I could talk about.
Right, okay. So yeah, my scribing is reflective of that daily check on, mark myself against 3 different categories on a little note of the day. So I'm sort of setting it up and going, okay, reflect back on the previous day, score a little note of what happened. And then I think at that point, that's when my little savers routine finishes. And I go, cool, it's time for a new day. Then that's where I start sort of getting into work, getting into everything.
Yeah, so, nice.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's cool. I enjoy hearing about that. That would be, I suppose, when did that book come out? 5 years ago, 10 years ago? If it was blogging, obviously.
A little while ago.
Not too long ago. So I can see how that would be, I guess, revolutionary if you'd never really heard of it before. I think I've only really heard of the morning routine in the past 3-4ish years as something solid.
I think I've heard about the morning routine probably 10 years plus, when I can recall maybe some motivational video way back in the day on YouTube and have like overlaid with music and whatever, and it's like morning routine.
Yeah,
do this.
Have you
make
heard,
your bed.
Have you heard it to the extent now where it's something that probably pops up in 1 in every 10 podcast episodes or something like that? If you're listening to a lot of Tim Ferriss and so I probably would have heard of it as well, but it's more once it reaches that tipping point where it becomes actively conscious in your brain rather than just another random fact that
that's
thrown
true.
out.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's good though. That's good. I think it's worth experimenting for most people.
Yeah,
to give it a try,
I agree.
see what it's like. It's too early to say that it's been revolutionary for me, but I can definitely see how this will just amplify some gains and lock in some good things for me. If I can continue to keep this going in a good manner.
Yeah, I think it lends itself to give you that little 1% advantage each day.
Yeah.
Where you look back after a month and go, whoa, I went through a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And I'm already starting to see how I would become protective of the morning as well. So if someone was saying wanted to do a podcast episode remotely and all they could do was at 8 a.m. my time or 9 a.m.
You might go,
I'd be, this might not even be worth it.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So I wanted to talk about one you hear about. Surely you've heard about this one. Losing skills due to technology. Have you heard people
losing skills
bitching
due
about
to
that?
technology?
You can't read. No one can read maps anymore. No one can.
Oh, I understand you. Okay.
So we're losing the ability to use some sort of skills that we once had before technology just came along and made them absolutely redundant.
Obliterated them.
My brother, for example, laughs at the fact that we used to have what do you call them, almanacs or whatever it was in your car, which would have every single street in Brisbane, and then you would physically look it up
and kind of trades it through the little map, and you're like, oh, quickly flip to 482, go there.
Yeah. So he finds that laughable because when he started driving, I think the GPS was good enough on all the phones that it was just unnecessary. So what if we had, here's a couple of just random ones. What if we had a perfect memory recording device that enabled playback, for example? How much more of the skills and things that you think are essential to being human would go out the window?
I think some would degrade. I think more would degrade naturally because there's obviously more being contained by something that you could just ask and bring forward. But why is that different to the current Google?
I guess with the memory recording, I was thinking more along the lines of you wouldn't need to particularly have in the memory bank certain skills that...
Are you talking about an example of, I want to go and cut this table into a particular shape. I don't have to even remember my skill. I'll just go and bring it up from this little
something sort of
reservoir,
like that,
and then I'll just go, cool, go into this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would reduce... I think at that point, well, why would anybody want to have to remember those skills off by heart if you can just go and get them from somewhere else.
Yeah.
I guess this is where my mind goes to straight away. What's the point of learning a language now and into the next maybe 10, 20 years when there's quite a high possibility that in 20 years you'll have an earbud. You might have like one of the earbuds that you talk in English, and when they respond in Chinese, you get Mandarin. You go through your headphones and it's English. Yeah. So at that point, what is the point of knowing another language?
Yeah. So I've actually dealt with this a little bit because that has been a question I've asked myself.
Yeah.
And I assume that in 10 years time they'll have cracked it sufficiently that it's good enough.
Yeah.
And my level of Spanish now would be better than that, because it would be able to pick up on all the words I don't know.
Yeah.
It would be able to pick up maybe certain idioms it wouldn't particularly know, or if someone shortens something, so instead of
it might mess it up a little bit.
All those little things that just nuances of the language. My thought was just one, challenge-wise, it's a really good challenge. It's really, really good one. It's just so difficult and requires so much time that it is something that you can't just bulk out. It requires a lot of time
on it.
And another one is, I think it has taught me a bunch of things that are useful outside of the actual language as well. So the value of having something that connects you to other people and is readily available. So the amount of times I think I've endeared myself to other people just by knowing their language.
Yeah.
I could also see the similar thing if, say yoga. I just got really good at yoga, or I used to practice yoga. I said, I used to do yoga. And it's like, there's another instant connection there.
Yeah, there's a way to sort of connect.
And the language one is a big one. That's a huge impact, because I think most people recognize just how much time it takes to actually learn something.
Yeah.
The other one is, I guess, just forming in my own brain and health-wise for my mental health, I guess, in the sense that I think it does have a lot of benefits, and you can look up in all the studies related to Alzheimer's and stuff, where it's, one of the best things you can do is learning a second language and other things. I think just being able to think in different ways is also really cool and interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I'd almost I'd call it out myself. I was looking at logically, it's pointless to go and learn a new language if you're looking at it really logically, in the sense of the purpose is to learn a new language so you can go and converse in it. I think even technology now is far enough. So currently, right now, you can go and get some...
No, I'd disagree with that.
And what I'd say is, if you're just purely doing it for you want to have a transactional conversation with someone else, or conversation to get to a means, to get whatever it may be. And I'm saying here is, you want a service, you want to transact, you want to have a conversation with someone, not for the societal pleasure of it or the cultural connection. This is a pure transaction question that I'm looking at.
You're talking about like business, right?
No, not business. So if you had to go to the toilet, or if you had to order a cheese, or you have to go and buy something and you have to pay for a certain amount. Right now, you can get headphones that do the conversion of translation. You can use your phone to just hold it up and it translates for you. You can do that. So in that view, I think, it's pointless if you're looking at just transactionally. But once you include the societal connection, the experiencing the culture, as you were saying, the sort of that affinity to, you know my language, cool, and you have this conversation about things and you can get a little bit deeper. I think that even if the technology is readily available for it, you're still not going to be able to get that aspect of it.
I would agree with that if you are staying in a place for less than a month. If it's more than a month, I'd disagree with that. I don't think I think at that point you would find it inconvenient enough that it's worth learning certain things.
So would it be inconvenient if you just walked up to someone and you had headphones in and you spoke, and when they spoke, it just translated straight away to English for you?
Well, you wouldn't be able to just speak. That's the problem.
No, so with this one, you would speak, your phone would translate it to their language, it would voice that out in real time to them, and then when they spoke, it would converse backwards to you.
I've yet to see a video of that actually in practice and how that would work.
All right, go check out Google's.
I'm going to check it out, but I'm already going to say I don't see that working that well. I just don't see you being able to do that in situations such as you're on the bus, you're trying to get the bus and it's busy and there's, a line forming up behind you and you're trying to shove your phone in the driver's face and he's like, just talk to me, get the shit out of the way and stuff like that. I would just say for like, if you're living anywhere long term, that doesn't sound like a pleasant way. It doesn't sound like a pleasant way to live. And I would argue that the transaction would become so unpleasant to be the point of unbearable.
Yeah, okay, I get you. I think it wouldn't ever reach unbearable for me because it's still getting the transaction, but it would become annoying. It would become a point where if you're living in a place long enough, you probably, if you'd spend the effort just talking to people, you might have already learned the language by the time that you're just being subservient to the technology, just doing it all for you. But as you're saying, I think if you let technology do it, you start losing just the skill of being able to learn and understand. And what happens when you take away your phone or the technology or the internet, then you're just up the creek. You just can't do anything. Because all of a sudden you're like, oh, now I've become dependent to this. Now you can't do anything. So it can become, well, at times even dangerous if you don't understand maybe the cultural norms around things, and if you don't even know how to interact, even if you don't know the language, but just interact with the other human being. So I wouldn't. So I'd say for me personally, like I wouldn't go and learn another language now. I don't have it in my future that I'm like, okay, I really want to learn. Sometimes I was like, Mandarin, do I want to? But I just see myself being in mostly English-speaking countries. Speaking Spanish to me is obviously fine. I don't care that I don't know the vocabulary of Spanish that deeply, but it's enough to have conversations that I can do that whenever I want. And I just can continue sort of conversing in English. So, yeah.
Okay, what about the just general question I raised about us losing skills? Are you worried that your kids are going to be, I guess, like almost neutered in a way because they can't do things that we are able to do without even thinking about?
I think
driving, for example, would you be worried that your kids can't drive they because it's just
yes, but it's also perspective. So if I look forward into the future, maybe 100 years, maybe those kids in 100 years.
Let's just go your kids' time. So let's just say
let's say
like 20
years. So let's say in 20 years or more that my kid might not ever be able to drive. Is that a skill set that I would be a disadvantage to them? Yes, if the context presented themselves that you have to drive. But let's equally look at, say, that perspective where, whatever, let's say that to drive maybe in 20 years, you can drive now, it's, robots driving along, but you have to know how to interact with this newfangled way to get into the car with the new application that connects you to the grid and how to get into the grid and how to time it. And, how maybe there's time lots that are not even bound into the normal minutes. It's by who even knows, right? And if they get brought up into that system and learn that skill, then they've learned skills that actually you don't even know or aren't very capable of. And it's the same if I then look back into the past. It's kind of that example of, sure, we've grown up with computers and maybe our family, our mum and dad, maybe we're really good at hand calculations that we now just go off and use a calculator on the computer or something similar, but we're much better at computers than they are. And sure, they can pick up that skill, but we have just sort of inherently built it up because we're just born into that area. So I think there's skills in the past that you lose, but you learn new skills as you go into the future. Well, do they balance? I'd say maybe you lose more of that animalistic human skills and you gain more technology advanced skills. I don't know if that trade-off is equal.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of, you go to a university exam and you can't take in the graphics calculator. You can only take in the sort of standard one that just lets you do plus, minus, times, square root. Is that sort of just stupid now because you should be able to have a graphics calculator taking that into the exam? I'm a bit in the middle, I think, at the moment.
I try to start thinking about to foolproof questions like that. Okay, let's take them to the extreme to test them. And it's okay if you drop yourself into maybe 100 years ago or into a remote village. Do you have the skills that you can go and hunt and make fire and cook?
See, I think I'm already at the stage where I wouldn't.
It's same. I think that'd be very, right now making fire, I understand the concept, but it probably going to be really hard for us.
Yeah, how you do it.
Is that a skill we need to know? Maybe not ever. But what happens if you do?
Yeah.
So then it's a similar question of, let's take a grandparent. Right now we live in an age of technology. What if in 10 years the only way or the best way to buy is through Amazon or Google Chat or something, where you're talking, you're invoking it through your phone, and it comes automatically. If you go see people, maybe shops have now moved away from each other. The shops closed down. Maybe there's only one central hub 200 kilometers away. Maybe that granny might go, oh, well, I'm still going to go because I don't know how to use this. So her lack of that skill is now proving a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So I could see it both ways. That's an interesting one, though.
Yeah. It's one, I think, maybe it's just like the message boards they sometimes go on where it's, I think, maybe got more of an anti-technology tilt to it in the sense that, especially if you hear, if you go on like religious boards, for example, they really don't like change. And so you'll hear it on there, even if they're not particularly anti-technology, it's like anti-change, the societal norms. These girls are just showing their butts everywhere nowadays, that sort of mentality. It's I can see both sides, but I'm
I almost look at it at the opposite, right? If there's no growth or change, that's the equivalent of death. That's the equivalent of, like, staying still is almost a surefire way of death. It's kind of like imagine 300 years ago, we just never grew from that point onwards.
Yeah,
it's like
I think humans have a real trouble with change. There's something that's been on my mind. I think I've mentioned a couple of times recently, and I'm trying to figure it out a bit more exactly. So there's one of those ones where I feel like it could become the equivalent of one of your maxims. There's something I repeat to myself, but I need to.
I'll tell you, it almost became a maxim, and I'm still thinking about it, which was Stephen Pressfield's War of Art, which was, he kind of explained it that it's the ego that wants to remain still, and it's the self that wants to grow. But it talks about how the ego is the thing within you that wants you to stay still, to be where you are, to be safe, to not progress. But it's the encapsulating self outside of that ego that is trying to look for that growth. And he kind of sort of viewed it in that, artistic way, where if you try to move away from the ego or remove the ego altogether, and you can get to your true self, then that allows you to get into that progressive growth state and connect to what he saw it is like that external deity / the muse / whatever is helping you out and pushing you along. At that level is what helps you connect and be able to grow. So it's the reason I didn't make my maxim is because there was a couple of points that I could kind of pick at, and I've heard the self and the ego and a couple of other things mentioned in different ways as well.
I was just going to say I like something along that sort of lines, but I just don't like the word ego. There's too much wrapped up with that thing. So
I can already see myself. I'm going to read. I can already picture it. Probably 3 years from now, I'll have read enough thing about ego, the self, the super ego, all this sort of stuff, and probably come to my own conclusion and give it some other name, whatever. It might even just be really personal. Like I'll call it, the animal one or the normal one. I might even go
two.
I might even go, this is me immortal one, and if I want to go beyond the me immortal or like a core me immortal or something like that, just to kind of make it okay. This is how I understand it, as opposed to because when you read a lot of those ego things and the self and I and all those. Everyone's kind of talking about it, but it's a little bit different in each, and it's so to someone's perspective and context. So it can, if I start talking about the ego, it could mean something so utterly different depending if you're Sam Harris or if you're like a Christian or if you're a Buddhist. It'd be so different.
Yeah, I really try and avoid words where I think there's too much subjectivity. Racism, for example, that word has changed so much that I have no idea what someone means when they use it anymore.
Yeah. The other one actually is
like that.
When people are saying, identity politics is bad and identity, can be a really dodgy subject. I think I went through a point where I was like, identity politics is bad. We shouldn't even have that. That's what causes a lot of issues when we get into it. But I'm starting to even think more. It's just that whole premise of identity that is a little bit flawed in the way that we look at it, because we can all look at it in so many different ways and be so incorrect in someone else's eyes and be correct in our own eyes, that we just almost never going to meet in this conversation. Like, we'd have to just kind of like step away from that plane and go and talk in some other plane about this sort of stuff.
I think we should just kill all humans, to be honest.
Basically, restart. Yeah. Not a rebirth, just birth another freaking civilization. Let's begin. Just flat, destroy everything. Begin with the bacteria.
Sounds good.
See what happens. Double up from there.
I mean, at least we'll get some dinosaurs or some cool shit like that.
Well, no, it is interesting. So I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about...
Bacteria came after dinosaurs?
Well, no, I was talking about, right, the dinosaurs got killed off by whatever you want to believe. I believe it's an asteroid or another sort of earth-shattering thing.
Are there other beliefs out there?
There is. Oh, man, there is so many beliefs. Holy moly.
Why would I even ask that?
Jeez,
I'm sure there are.
Mates,
I haven't heard of them yet.
Gosh, I've heard of one where a hole opened up in the earth and they all fell in and they're still there. Jeez. Have you heard of the underground tunnels where the dinosaurs live? Have you not heard this theory?
I haven't
Mate,
heard of that one, yeah.
Gotta go check that one out. Theories. But all I'm saying is, after the dinosaurs went extinct for whatever purpose, then, there's a reason why they didn't come back. Like, what's the reason that evolution didn't then now bring back more dinosaurs?
Okay.
And the interesting point is, well, what makes them dinosaurs and doesn't make a really big bird today a dinosaur? Like, what's the definition of a dinosaur there? And I think the definition was, well, it's older and it's back in this particular age. That's the only reason we call it a dinosaur. Okay. So why don't you call dinosaur something that was even before that or beyond it? And I think it was all talking about, well, you're going to have this continual growth and specifically mutation towards adaptation of the environment that you're in. So once they went through the calamity that they went, the environment changed, the mutations then adapted to the environment that it was in to then breed us. Yeah, it's kind of the example if for some reason the earth had become extremely hot, humans might never have eventuated, might have converted into something completely different. Maybe
it would just be populated with Kyrins.
Oh, yeah. Juans would not exist. Juans would not exist. They'd all have gone to, what's that moon called? One of the moons of Jupiter's, one of the frozen ones. Negative 400 degrees. I'd love that up. Anyways, we're going to cut that there. That's been Musings for today. Keep it short. If you enjoyed this, if you like our conversations, I want you to share with someone else.
Yeah.
You missed out the Suit Society giveaway. I'm telling you this right now. Boo on you. That's been one. But what I can give you as my gift is almost 200 episodes of content. So go check it out. YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you want to check it, we are there. Yeah. I promise you that.
Yeah. Leave a comment if you think, what are your thoughts? Are humans losing their skills? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Are you scared of the future because your son's not going to be able to drive a car?
Or if you're too scared about that question, what do you believe happened to dinosaurs? Yeah, do you believe they got sucked into the hole?
That's an even better one.
I want to know that. I want to know. Tell me if it's different to an asteroid impact because I want to have a debate with you. That would be awesome. All right, that's it. Me Immortals, one out.
Karen out.